It's been almost 4 years since Bangladesh's Rana Plaza collapse, killing more than 1,100 clothing factory workers. Though major Western clothing retailers pledged to improve worker safety at the time of the accident, many observers say those changes have either been slow to happen or haven't materialized at all. Why? Well, the pressure to manufacture low-cost clothing on the global market remains. But there are some smaller retailers who are trying to make a difference and bring about ethical fashion options for shoppers. And here with more on that, we welcome Nicole Manick, designer and founder of the online lifestyle platform lifeofmanick.com, Beth Timlin, owner of Grey Rock Clothing Company in Guelph, Ontario, which promotes ethical and sweatshop-free fashion. And once again, we welcome back Sarah Portway, PhD candidate in apparel design, instructor of fashion design and visual thinking at Cornell University. Welcome to you, too.
Thank you.
Nicole, let's just start with you here. How'd you get into this racket?
I've been doing it for a long time. I've been a stylist for over a decade. And after styling for many, many years, I wanted to open a store. I sort of wanted to have all the things that I wanted in one place. So I opened a store, and
where was that?
It was on Dundas and Dufferin.
In Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah. And so originally I had a concept of having vintage and new. I've grown up thrifting. I have a thrifting mom, and I've always worn secondhand, and that's always been even a part of my style ethos. I've always loved secondhand. So what happened is my store was a mix of old and new, and then it sort of just became mostly vintage. And I started designing products because there were all sorts of wonderful vintage materials that were coming into my store that were damaged. So I would find a sequin dress or an old leather coat, and I have a background in accessories design, so I started to design purses and hats out of old materials, and it just happened very organically.
Repurposing old materials.
Yes.
So it's very environmentally conscious too, actually.
It is, yeah.
Okay, you still got the store?
No, I closed the store in September to move to an online platform.
And that's your business model now?
Yeah, and I have stockists, so you can buy my products like all throughout the city.
I've got lifeofmanick.com.
Yeah.
Let's go. Should we put these up now, Sheldon? Let's check the monitor out here because we're going to put up some of your stuff.
Oh.
Take us through this. What are we looking at?
Okay, so those are little baby slippers, and they're made from a number of different materials. So they're made from suede, which came from old pants, suede pants, and then I found a very large bolt of corduroy that was this Snoopy printed corduroy. So I was able to make a fairly decent run of these little baby slippers out of repurposed materials.
That looks like it takes a lot of workmanship to make that happen.
It does. It's always the things that are the hardest to make that the people want the most, but the baby slippers are very, very labor intensive.
And therefore, retail for how much?
They retail for $35 Canadian.
Oh, that's not outrageous.
No.
Yeah.
This is a pillow that I made from some material that I found at an estate sale. It was the most magnificent estate ever. It was this huge home where every single room was wallpapered, and this woman had the most amazing wallpaper and fabrics. So I bought a really large lot of fabric from the estate, and I made pillows.
You repurposed it into the pillow. Okay, next shot.
And these are the sequin purses that I make. So I take, everybody remembers the sequin dresses from the 80s and the 70s. And I had a lot of them in my store, and they weren't selling, and I was just like, this material is incredible. I can't not do something with it.
And again, a lot of workmanship as well?
A lot of workmanship. The thing that is very difficult with these purses is they break a lot of needles. So you are constantly changing the needle. But
and how much are they?
The smaller ones are $89 and the large are $119.
Okay, you're not going to be shocked by this, but I have no clue whether or not that's a lot or a little for a purse.
It's pretty reasonable.
It's
pretty for something that's like handmade in Canada. It's quite reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last shot. Let's bring up one more picture if we can, Sheldon. I guess we're looking at the shoes here? No.
We're looking at the purse.
Oh, we're looking at the purse. Okay.
So the purse is made
Sarah,
from...
I told you, the education of the host. Remember? I said that at the beginning. I warned you guys.
I wish there's not enough Canadian
purses.
Okay, what's it made out of?
It's made from a blanket, from a Mexican blanket.
Huh.
Yeah, and then it's been embellished with different trims, with pom-poms and trims, and it's backed with leather. So on the other side, it's repurposed leather.
Gotcha. Okay. And how's business?
It's great.
Business is great.
Yeah.
How would you define great?
I mean, it's great because I have a loyal following of people who really support what I do and love my product and are excited about what I'm doing. Almost everybody who buys from me is very, very excited about the fact that what I make is from repurposed materials and that I'm looking at sustainable style and sort of eco-fashion in a more glamorous way, and I think that that's a hole that needs to be filled.
There's an ethical backbone to your business, in other words.
Right, and
Something like
I
that.
think
Okay.
ethical fashion, there's a lot of great brands that are coming up that are doing a lot, but I think that people's mindset for ethical fashion is that it's not stylish. And I would like to, change
Challenge
that
that.
way of thinking, yeah.
Got it. Okay, Beth, should we find out about the Grey Rock Clothing Company?
Definitely.
Okay, which is where?
So we're located in downtown Guelph, and we've been there for 4 years, and we do sweatshop-free clothing for men, women, and a little bit of babies.
And tell me why it's important to you to use that expression, sweatshop free.
So when I opened, we were toying with different ideas about the label we wanted to use for our store, and we realized that the word ethical meant different things to different people. So to some people that means local, to other people it means organic or vegan, but for us, sweatshop free was the most important one. So knowing that no humans were harmed in the making of our product was what was paramount to us. Luckily for us, a lot of people who make sweatshop-free clothing also care about organic and vegan and that kind of thing. So a lot of our clothes also tick those boxes as well, which is great.
And your stuff is made where?
So we source from about 30 different suppliers all over the world. So we've got stuff from Guatemala, Peru, El Salvador, Canada, and the US, India, Nepal. We do have some stuff made in China, but there's a lot of certifications and kind of checks and balances to make sure.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you know if it's coming from Guatemala or from China, that it's actually made in a good conditions?
It's really tough, and we use a variety of different things. So, for example, the stuff we have from Guatemala, like my belt, is all of the stuff there is leather and glass beads. And we work with this great couple who are retired teachers who go down there and they run school groups who they take down to do work in the community there. While they're there, they go to the leather markets, and they have partnered with these guys who took our design for this belt, and now these men in these leather markets, I know they're paying them well. They manufacture these belts for us. So on smaller scales, that's some of the ways we know. We've got the stuff that's made in Canada, whereas just the nature of it being made in Canada means that there are checks and balances to make sure that people aren't being exploited. But we look further down the line to where does that fabric come from. So using fair trade and GOTS, the Global Organic Textile Certification. And then we also use the fair trade certification, which a lot of people have heard of maybe in terms of like coffee and chocolate and bananas. It also applies to clothing. And we use the B Corp certification. So we're a B Corp certified business ourselves.
What does that mean?
A B Corp is about being, so their slogan is being, not worrying about being the best in the world, being the best for the world. So corporations are bound to think of profits first, and their shareholders can make decisions based on that. But when you're a B Corp, you're evaluated and you're held to a triple bottom line where you have to consider people, planet, and profits to make your decisions, and you're scored, and that score is visible online, and you're always working to improve your score across all these variety of areas.
Of what you're wearing here today, is it all your stuff or any of your stuff?
Everything
is
all
your
the
stuff?
time is my stuff. Yeah.
So the shirt that you're wearing, is that blouse, shirt, what do you call it?
Sure, you could call this a shirt.
Okay.
So this is a great company out of the US. So for every item they manufacture, they remove a pound of trash from the world's waterways. So they organize trash cleanups around the world to do that. It is made in China, but again, I think that's okay as long as we've got all these certifications. In most cases, made in China is not going to be ethical. Right. But those people in China who are unemployed, they need jobs and they have skills. Like we were talking about how it's a real skill to sew clothing, and that's a dying skill in Canada. But there are these skilled people there who are in desperate need of good paying labor.
And how much is the shirt?
The shirt retails for about $85.
And how would that compare to something built in a sweatshop, in Bangladesh?
It depends on the brand. Like the brands don't own the sweatshops, they contract out to them. And one day a sweatshop could be making one shirt that is going to retail somewhere for $10, and the next day, using very similar materials, they could be making a shirt for somebody else that's going to retail for $200. It's made by the same people with very similar products and the same conditions.
Gotcha. Okay, let me go to my expert over here from Ithaca, New York, originally from Toronto, and ask you the experience of these two. I mean, they're obviously trying to do something very different. Don't take this the wrong way. I don't think they're a threat to the massive,
Working on it.
They're working on it, but they're not there yet. The whole, what do you want to call it, Joe Fresh, H&M, I mean, that whole scene. What percentage of people do you think are interested in what they have to offer? What percentage of people who shop care about doing it their way?
I think it's a growing number, if I can say that, and be positive. I mean, I'm sure you guys are seeing more and more people through your doors. You've been able to move to an exclusively online platform, which says a lot for your business. I know I was a shopper there before the store closed. But so I think it's growing, but I would still say it's a pretty small percentage of the overall population. So, I mean, it's hard to put it in exact numbers, but like maybe 1 or 2% kind of care.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're constantly educating. I feel like you probably are doing the same in what you do. And every time people love my product when they don't know how it was made, and then when I tell them, they're like, "Oh my God, that's so great!" You know, they love it even more.
And they're prepared to pay a little more for it as a result.
Yes, they are. I mean, I'm also, that's not my goal. Like I want to keep my products affordable because I want people to buy them. I don't want that gap to be that they're too expensive.
You know, people, Beth, are so cynical about everything these days, as you know. And I wonder if you run into folks who think that what you're doing is just another means of marketing the same old thing. You run into that at all, that kind of skepticism?
I think because we've got our B Corp certification and our suppliers are B Corp certified and Fair Trade certified, that's a way to prove that we're not just greenwashing and doing that kind of thing. And the other thing is that most of my customers don't come to me because it's sweatshop free. They come because we are a fantastic boutique. There's a number of other great boutiques on our street, but we're the least expensive on our street. So it's not that we're so far high and above everything else. It's just that there's less profit margin for the company. Still a healthy profit margin, but a larger percent is going to the workers and making sure that everybody is treated fairly and equitably along the way.
And when people come into the store, how often do they look at you and say, "Really, $89 for that shirt?" Do you get that?
Sometimes we do, and I always explain to them why that is. Like you were talking about earlier, most of our clothing started as a plant in a field. Like people, that is a big disconnect for a lot of people. And for some people, it's frankly not affordable. I think part of that problem is that we don't even pay a living wage to everybody in this country. And I've worked hard as a business to be able to pay that to my employees so that people can then make ethical choices and other people can make living wages, and that can really snowball. And I really believe in voting with your wallet for the world that you want to see, and thinking of it as a lifestyle, because it can be really easy to get cynical and think about all the problems, but if you focus on what you can change and what you can afford and where you want to put your money with the things that you're passionate about, I think you can make change.
All right, you're in education, so tell us, how do we educate the public to the story that we're trying to tell on the program tonight?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out. So if you want to just like type up my dissertation for me and figure that problem out, that would be
you're
awesome.
on your own for that.
Don't tell Cornell I said that. Oops. It's interesting because a lot of what you guys just said is backed up in the research as well. So if I can put on my nerdy academic hat for a minute, we know that people want to just be enticed by the product, and that the fact that it's sustainable should be kind of the value added, we would call it.
Right.
So it's a bonus.
Right.
And then, we also know that people are very price conscious and they're not necessarily connecting, and we know that they're a little concerned about greenwashing, as you mentioned. So all of these certifications can be really confusing, especially when we're familiar with it in food, but not so familiar with it in clothing. And so a lot of what's happening in the industry is backed up by academics. And so we're working on that, how to teach people or how to educate. Actually, that's the nugget exactly that I'm working on for my thesis. I'm testing the effectiveness of a website called Project Just, which lists transparent brand information about, it's over 160 brands now, but they're constantly populating it. And I'm essentially testing, when you cut through all the academic jargon, I'm looking at, can this website change the way you shop?
Well, let me follow up with Nicole on that, because I presume when people want to go shop at your virtual place,
Yeah.
they want it to be a fun experience.
Right.
They don't necessarily want it to be a pedagogical experience.
No, they want it to be fun. For
Right.
sure. Shopping should be fun.
So how, on the one hand, do you educate people to the reality you're trying to present, while on the other hand, not hit them over the head and be like a Sunday school teacher about all this?
Yeah, there is a fine balance. I support, on my platform, a lot of blogging where I just try to educate my customer on how you can get more value for your money, how the product is made, and that sort of thing. And sort of to add to the discussion about education, I feel that celebrities have a huge responsibility in sending this message. I think that a lot of celebrities are just pushing a lot of this mass-produced clothing out, putting their name on it, And if we saw people, who really have a large following, a large voice, getting behind ethical fashion, vintage, repurposing, we will see a huge change.
You know who you can get? Who? You could get Mike Timlin, who you are
Mike
not,
Timlin, I could, yeah.
you are not at all related to, but who is a world champion for both the Blue Jays and the Red Sox.
He is.
So you could get him to make the case.
Yeah.
Get on that, will you,
He
Beth?
would be part of our next photo shoot, I think.
Not a bad idea. But can I get you to weigh in on that as well? How do you educate people without really sort of force feeding them this stuff?
We tell everybody when they come in, we ask if they've been in before, and if they say no, we say, okay, just so you know, men's and women's, and everything's sweatshop free. And I used to worry when I first opened that maybe, I don't know everything there is to know about sweatshop free, and people are going to ask me all these questions, and I'm not going to know. And I would say 1% of people actually ask me any kind of follow-up question on that. But more and more people are asking more questions. And when I first opened, I would also say that less than 5% of the people who shopped in my store came because I sold sweatshop-free clothing. But as my customer base has grown, those customers who've been coming from the beginning are shopping more and more with me, and they're not only because we're a great business, but because it is sweatshop-free. Or they'll say, I needed a new this, so I came to you first because I wanted it, my first option for it to be that it would be
People want to do the right
sweatshop-free.
thing, don't they?
They do.
At
and
the end of the day?
I think it also needs to be a shift in business. Doing the right thing should be par for the course, and right now it's not. And there's so many things that we buy in this world that are made unethically, and it is so difficult to pay attention to everything. So I love knowing that for my customers, I provide that they walk in the door and they don't have to read labels, they don't have to ask questions. I've done all that hard work for them, and I just focus on being a great business and offering fantastic customer service from there.
Gotcha. Well, we wish both of you well.
Thank
and
you.
you too with that dissertation. Good luck with all of that. And thanks to the three of you for coming into TVO tonight and certainly at the very least educating the host about how a lot of this stuff works. Thank you very much to Sarah Portway, who's banging down the doors in Ithaca, New York these days at Cornell University, and Beth Timlin from Grey Rock Clothing Company, and Nicole Manick. Lifeofmanick.com is her site. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.